Hello, this is Steven Seifert. Welcome to week 4 of Just for Intermediates. This is the Thursday class. This is your final class. We're going to hang out for about 4 minutes here. We got to remember people are getting used to using this equipment. I sure have been. Sharon, do you have a question?
Yes.
What do
In
you
our dulcimer group, we have been introducing the strumming across it all and constant movement of the right hand.
Yeah.
And we're a little confused about what happens when you have picking notes before you have chords, you're going along chords, and then you have some picking single notes.
You just keep doing it. I'll show you what I mean too. Let me get rid of this beach. I got to get rid of
the
the
beach.
Yeah, but I don't know how to turn it off. Let me see.
You move to the Midwest.
How do I get rid of the beach? Here it is. Okay, there we go. So I'll show you this on that deal. Let me go to this other view. I want you to watch my right hand. Now, first of all, I'm always careful to tell people this constant movement is not the only way to strum, and it's not the only way I strum, but it's the best first way to strum. And I think that also includes hitting individual strings. So let me give you an example of that. Check my tuning here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and mute you, Sharon. So if you need to talk, you just got to unmute. So watch my right hand here. If I'm just hitting strings, I'm doing this same alternating. Now, if I go to hit individual strings like the bass, I do the same kind of movements, but on a very tiny level, or the middle, or the melody. So I'm still hitting every out and sometimes doing an out in or a group of out ins. The difference is I make the movements smaller and I direct it over an individual string instead of all of them. Or I might direct it over 2 strings. So let me play something where you see me doing a little bit of everything. Keep your eye on my right hand here. So that whole time I was alternating, but is it covering a big area? Is it covering a small area? Now, that takes some time to learn that. Once you learn that, you'll start to find there's some times when you don't want to do that. But it's considered to just be elementary that you be able to do that. Now, not all great musicians pick that way now, but I wonder, I don't know if they never had it or if they decided for an alternative. The downside to this can sometimes be speed. So I don't think that's going to really be an issue for us, but some of these really fast guitar players that play amazing fast jazz or heavy metal, rock, they start to figure out that they can actually go faster if they abandon this alternating sometimes. But that's a very different thing. And I don't think, most of the people I teach, they're not ready to even know that exists. But I think it's important to say that I'm not giving you guys moral imperatives. You're welcome to move your hand however you want. I just think there's some real advantages to learning this way because it forces you to learn what it looks like, feels like, and sounds like to be accurate. We were talking about this yesterday. Somebody said their teacher told them, you really don't need a metronome. And I think I know the spirit of what the teacher meant. But I like to think of this. The metronome really makes it more possible for you to play with other people. The more accurate you are with your rhythms, people are going to be happy to sit down with you. So no, you don't need a metronome, but you do need to play with accurate musicians. And if you don't have accurate musicians to hang out with, a metronome is a substitute for that. And we were this is pushing it a little too far, but I was saying it's kind of like bathing. You don't have to bathe, but there's some people that aren't going to be able to feel comfortable around you if you have body odor. I'm pretty tolerant of body odor because I've known a lot of hippies. And I've worked in nursing homes and, but still, see that what a terrible metaphor that is? Nancy, I like your headdress. That's looking good, girl. Now, here's the other reason we're easing into today. I don't feel good today. So I was hoping as I start to teach, the endorphins will kick in and the adrenaline will kick in. It doesn't help that I thought this was water, but it's diet drink, orange cream diet drink. That could kill me right there. All right. So I think I'm feeling better actually. But if I start to feel worse, we'll work it out. If the stream shuts down on us like it did yesterday, I will communicate with Nancy Garrett via phone, and she will text or tell you all what's going on. But yesterday it happened for 10 or 15 minutes, and we did end up coming back. But it had already sent a message to everyone saying the meeting was over, and so some of the people didn't make it back. You might be here today from yesterday, but anyway. Bev in Indiana, you got a question?
Yes, hi Steve.
Hey there.
Your Steve teaches Steve a tune session.
Yeah.
Are they every week, Monday at 10 Eastern? Or do they differ?
Well, I put the calendar up on my website, so that's really what you need to do. So mountaindulcimer.com has a calendar, but so does stevenseifert.com. Right now, I'm trying to do it every 2 weeks, but I really want to do it once a week because I need it. It's for me. And all of those so far, well, that's not true. I've done 3, and the last 2 are on YouTube on my account. So you can watch that stuff, but sure. Let's see. You're welcome, Sharon. Please explain Flatpick Decoder. I might not be doing that today. That's just something I threw in there just in case, and yesterday it turned out I didn't do it. But I think, let's see. I might show you guys that just because she asked, and I think it could change your life. I see what you're saying there, Jamie. Look at all this stuff you guys got. I'm going to do more stuff like this. Let's talk about flat picking for a second. I'm not going to give you the full hour class on this, but let's just see for intermediates if I can do an intermediate version of this. So first of all, I'm going to play a major scale on the melody string. I'm going to go O to 7. I'm going to use every fret here, except I'm not going to use the 6. I'm going to use all the other frets, but not the 6. So here's my major scale with a full strum. think of how many tunes we've got where that's pretty much where you're hanging out. You know, Soldier's Joy, Old Joe Clark, which uses the 6. But I mean, so many tunes, the bulk of the tune is there. It does reach outside of that a little bit. Sometimes it dips up here to the 8 or the 9, and even higher. But sometimes we end up using an O, 1, or 2 on the middle. So you got a major scale on the melody string from O to 7. Sometimes it goes up to the 8 or 9, or even higher. Sometimes it dips over to the middle string at 2, 1, 0. Now, I know it goes everywhere, you know, but the bulk of your jam tunes actually spend most of their time, if not all their time, on the melody string from O to 7. So one thing we did in the first class here is how do you move everything over to the bass? And that's the great thing about this tuning is in DAD, you just move it over to the bass. You don't have to do any math or anything. So here's a full strum with all the notes on the bass string. And I could go up to the 9. And remember, with this class, since your microphone is off, you can do all this stuff as I'm teaching it, and you're not going to bother anybody, so feel free to do that. So this is really good because if you can play a tune on the melody string, there's a darn good chance you can just move it over to the bass and get a whole different sound. And now over to the bass. So great. And I want to remind you, as I've learned mandolin and guitar recently, it doesn't work that well. And I saw this video online where this real music genius, he's urging everyone, learn how to play the same melody in different places on the guitar. You know, and I can just see people going, oh, that's hard. It's not hard for us right there, you know. So what's the next step? Well, now I'm going to keep that scale on the bass string, but instead of doing a full strum, I am going to only pick the bass string. So this goes back to what Sharon was asking about. The right hand is now going to continue to alternate the way we've been doing for 4 weeks, but instead of applying that to all strings, it will now be applied to one string. So watch this. Now, what's the point of that? Well, check this out. Old Joe Clark, where I do use the 6. If I put that on the bass with a full strum, sounds pretty good. But sometimes when I put the stuff over on the bass, I don't do a full strum. I just hit the bass string by itself. If I'm in a group, that's especially effective. You know, they're all strumming all around me. I don't need to. And just to hear that, but I'm still doing that out only with the occasional out in or group of out ins. But here's where the magic really starts to happen. You take a tune like Old Joe Clark, and I know I'm using the 6 now, not the 6.5. You move it over to the bass. Make sure you can do it with a full strum or just hitting the individual bass string, which we call flat picking to some extent. But the real magic is when you can go back and forth between hitting just the bass and hitting all the strings. So watch this. The melody's on the bass string. Sometimes I'm only hitting the bass string. Sometimes I'm hitting all of them. All I got to do If I want to hear all the strings, I widen the movement. If I want to hear just the bass, I make that back and forth smaller. And all I got to do is widen it and narrow it over and over again. And I get that nice pick strum style, is what people call this. Mike Klimmer calls it a pick strum style. Listen to it fast. Listen to it fast. That starts to sound pretty cool. Now, why even do that? Well, if you put that melody over to the bass, sometimes it gets hidden. I mean, I don't think that's bad, but it's just that constant strumming with it can hide your melody a little. If you only pick the bass string, it's a little lonely sounding. If you combine the two, that's where I think it's really interesting. Now, hang with me on this. Remember, you can read hands, and I'm just doing the first part of Old Joe Clark. 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. That's about. What if we apply this concept back to the melody string? If you strum the melody, if you play on the melody and you strum the whole time, it's actually a little hard to hear that melody sometimes because of all that strumming of all the strings. If you only pick the melody string, it sounds pretty wimpy. So sometimes people ask me, they'll say, when you're playing a tune, why is the melody so clear? Well, here's why. I apply that same concept that we just did on the bass string to the melody string. Sometimes I hit all the strings, sometimes I only hit the melody. Notice I'm only hitting the melody string sometimes. This is the pick strum style. It's wonderful. Here's the way I look at it. If the melody's on the melody string, I mostly strum all the strings, and I occasionally hit the melody string by itself just to accent a note here or there. But it's predominantly full strums with the occasional picking of the melody string. I do the opposite on the bass. On the bass, I predominantly hit the bass string by itself, and every once in a while throw in a strum. So listen to both of those. Here's the melody string where it's mostly strumming. When I go over to the bass, I'm going to mostly pick with the occasional strum. When you speed all that up, nobody really knows what you're doing. It just sounds cool. Here I hit that last one, melody string only. I'm just telling you, my brain can't hear. You know, I didn't realize people even did this on other instruments until I slowed them down. It was just too fast for me to think about. So what's flat picking? A big part of flat picking is hitting these individual strings. Maintaining that alternating we've been working on this whole time. But there's a second element to flat picking. When you flat pick, when you hit a lot of individual strings, you don't tend to just do it all on one string. I think I'm teaching this whole thing. I don't know what's going on here, but watch this. You know, the scale right now is all on the bass string. I'm hitting the bass string only. I might throw some strums in there. But the really cool thing about flat picking is you get away from hanging out on one string only and you chop that scale up so that some of the notes are on the bass, some are on the middle, some are on the melody. So I want to show you how that works. On the bass string, O through 3, you can't find those notes anywhere else on the dulcimer. They just don't exist. They're only there. So I'm going to keep them there. But look at these next 3 notes. 4, 5, 6.5 on the bass. Where can I find these same notes on the middle string? 4, 5, 6.5. The notes are A, B, C sharp. Where's an A, B, C sharp on the middle string? It's at open, 1, and 2. So listen to 4, 5, 6.5 on the bass. O, 1, 2 on the middle. They're the same notes. The difference, sound-wise, the bass string sounds warmer to me, and the middle string sounds a little pickier to me. But they still are the same notes. So watch this. This is the big payoff here. Watch my left hand. And I'm going to do O through 3 on the bass. And instead of doing 4, 5, 6.5 on the bass, I'm going to play those same notes on the middle at O, 1, 2. So now I'll do O through 3 on the bass. And I'll do O, 1, 2 on the middle. Listen to it all on the bass. Now I'll do it across the strings. Same notes, okay? Well, what's the advantage of taking it off of all one string and moving it across? The advantage is your left hand is not constantly going left and right, which actually means it's going to make it easier to play the trickier music. One thing that happens when we go left and right all the time is you end up running out of fingers. And I think you guys all experience this all the time. You're doing something and then you just run out of fingers and you got to figure out what are you going to slide to get the next one and what do you got to do? When you move things so they go across the strings, a lot of these tunes we play that normally where you're hanging out between O and 7, now they can all be done right under your hand using nothing higher than a 3, usually. So check this out. I could not do that right there if I was all on one string. It's too hard. You're running out of fingers. You constantly are having to move the hand left and right. So sometimes people say, what is flat picking? Well, it's 2 things. One is you're hitting individual strings instead of all of them. That's what the right hand's doing. But the left hand, you're taking what was all on one string and you're chopping it up so some notes are on the bass, some are on the middle, some are on the melody. Let's expand that out a little bit. Watch this. So O through 3 stays on the bass. The 4, 5, 6.5 gets moved to O, 1, 2 on the middle. And then watch this. The 7, 8, 9. Where can we find that on the melody string? It's a D, E, F sharp. It's going to be at the melody down here at O, 1, 2. Listen to the 2 of them. Bass, melody. Now that melody string sounds thinner, but it's the same notes. So here's all on the bass. And here's across the string, same notes. And the big powerful thing here is you do not run out of fingers down here the way you do when you're trying to do everything on one string. It's a really big thing. Now, I want you to think about this. Remember, to get you guys to play up high, I told you we were going to pretend up here that we're on a little dulcimer. Okay? So instead of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13 and a half, 14, I wanted you to pretend that it's numbered up here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 and a half, 7. So now old Joe Clark starts at a 4 up high. The big thing to remember there is open is no longer hands off. Now open is what we usually call a 7. 0, 1, 2, 1, 0. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. Now why did I show you that trick? It's because I want you to have the freedom to take any tune you play down here and just simply move it up. You get that variety, but you had to learn a little bit of a trick to do it. Well, the same thing is true of flat picking. How do you convert a tune to this flat picked across the string version? All right. So let me pull this up, and you might have to give me a minute to do this. Let's see. This is actually superior to what I did yesterday, and it's going to take the same amount of time. So I think this will be good for you guys. But right now, let me just see if I happen to have that, because I wasn't going to do it. Oh, I did. I was ready for it. I love getting older, where you screw up less. All right, so the flat pick decoder, which I did send you guys. Let me see if I can resize this a little bit. Yeah, that ought to do right there, actually. One moment, please. Oh, look at that. See, there's things that are better about. People always say they miss the old days, but nobody says they miss scurvy. Or, Look at that. Okay. I'm almost there. Thanks for your patience. All right. I got a nice song to give you for this, too. Okay. There we go. Look at that. All right. Might as well make it bigger. We're living in the future, folks. So what in the world is this? This is the page I gave you called Flat Pick Decoder. And this is trickier. When I wanted you to play up high, and I just said, let's just move up high and pretend it's a little dulcimer, that didn't require a lot of brain power. You just got to get used to it. This trick, a little weirder on the brain. The flat pick decoder, I want you to look at these numbers. This doesn't show you what the fret numbers are. This shows you how we take what was on one string, on the bass string from 0 to, in this case, 12. It tells you how to take those notes that are on the bass string and how to chop them up into 3 sections so that some of them are on the bass, some are on the middle, and some are on the melody. And this shows you where those notes came from. Okay? So on the flat pick decoder, if you take a fiddle tune and just move it to the bass string, you can do the whole tune all on the bass string. That's Gray Cat on a Tennessee Farm all on the bass. What if you want to chop it up into the flat pick 3-string version where nothing is higher than a 3? Well, that's where this decoder comes in. So anything that's O through 3 stays on the bass at O through 3. You don't move it. Anything that was a 4, 5, 6.5 on the bass gets moved to the middle at what's really an O, 1, 2. And that's where I need to make sure we're clear, especially on some of you who are maybe not as intermediate as you wish. And there's nothing wrong with that. So what was a 4, 5, 6.5 on the bass now becomes an O, 1, 2 on the middle. And this decoder just kind of reminds you of where that came from. Anything that's a 7 through 12 on the bass string gets moved over to the melody string at what's actually O through 5. So I want you guys, hopefully you're sitting there trying this. My right hand is alternating. Sometimes I'll hit all outs, but right now I want you to alternate. But I don't want you to go higher than the 3rd fret. So if you look at this flat pick decoder, we're not going to go higher than the number 10. Because I don't want to go any higher than the 3rd fret. So you're going to do O through 3 on the bass, O through 2 on the middle, and then O through 3 on the melody. I want you right now to see if you can do all that at the same time. So I'll do O through 3 on the bass, O through 2 on the middle, O through 3 on the melody, and then I'll turn around and start going down. 2 through O on the middle, 3 through O on the bass. And the whole time my right hand is alternating. Out, in, 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 out. So that's the mechanics of it. And I think the decoder will make a little more sense once I give you a tune. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and we will come back. I'm going to see you in 6 minutes. Okay, let's get back to this flat pick business. So, let me bring up a tune here. What I need you guys to do is, if you don't have this printed out, excuse me, I think you need to write it down. Just write that down real quick. O through 3 stays on the bass. 4, 5, 6.5 gets moved over to the middle at what's really an O, 1, 2. 7 through 12 on the bass gets moved over to the melody string at what's actually O through 5. But we're not going to go any higher than the 3rd fret here. Look at that 7 on the middle string. Just ignore it for now. So I'm going to bring up a tune. Let's see. This is a simple tune, Gray Cat on a Tennessee Farm. And it's normally not sideways. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and make sure we get a little more of that in here. Huh. Oh, I see. Here we go. All right, here's Gray Cat on a Tennessee Farm. Grey. I never remember if it's AY or EY. So let's take this decoder concept and see what happens with this tune. Anything that's an O, well, first of all, here's the process I want you guys to do after this class. You take a simple tune that's all on the melody string. Let's just play it for a second. 1, 2, ready, melody string. Measure 3. Let's do that A part again. Here comes the B part, second line. Now let's just move all that over to the bass. The whole thing. It's going to be only on the bass string, but we're going to do a full strum. 1, 2, ready, go. Keep that right hand moving. Out, out. Add some out ends now. Add those filler strums. B part, second line. Second step, I want you to flat pick the bass string only. So we're still on the bass, but now instead of hitting all the strings, you're just going to hit the bass only. But you're still going to follow this concept. Here's right hand only on the bass. You're going to hit every out. And sometimes you're going to do an out in or a group of out ins. One, two, ready, go. Four, five, 7. 2, 1, 0. Keep that right hand moving. We're hitting the bass only. B part, second line. Last 2 measures. So notice I added out ends in there. It's the same movements. It's just instead of covering all the strings, you're just going to cover a smaller area. So think about what I said before. Whenever I have the melody on the bass string only, I often like to predominantly pick the bass only, but occasionally hit all the strings. So, how do I do that? Well, I don't really follow a pattern. I just mostly hit the bass and occasionally open up that strum to hit all the strings. But let me give you a formula just to get us going here. We're going to strum all the strings on the last beat of every measure. So it's going to be like this. Pick, 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 strum. Pick, 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 strum. Pick, 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 strum. Pick, 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 strum. Notice how I'm still adding out ends in there. So I want you to continue to do that. You're going to pick the first 3 notes of every measure, strum the last beat. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, play. Strum. 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 Again. Make your picking nice and strong and make the strumming a little softer. But keep the picking strong, B part. Make the individual picking strong. I messed up. Do the B part again. Make the picking loud and the strumming a little softer. It'll balance it out. Here's another pick strum pattern that helps a lot of folks. I want you to predominantly pick the bass string only unless you see the same number repeated in the tablature. Whenever you see the same number repeated, I want you to pick the first in that series of the same number and strum any that follow it. So look through this piece. Whenever we have the same number in a row, we don't have that more than twice. We don't see that same number more than twice. So every time you see a pair of the same number, pick the first one, strum the second one. Look at the first line. Just say pick or strum with me as we look at it. Pick, 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 strum. Pick, 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 strum. So that's kind of like what we did, but let's look at the B part. Pick, strum, pick, strum, pick, strum, pick, strum. Pick, 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 strum, pick, strum. Now, if you accidentally pick or strum at the wrong time, that's actually closer to what I want you to do anyway. But just use this pattern to get used to this. So here we go. One, and keep that hand moving as I'm counting you in. 1, 2, ready, play. Add some out ends in here. Don't forget the out ends. A part again. Keep the pickings loud and the strumming a little softer. Let's do that B part. It's going to be pick, strum, pick, strum, pick, strum, pick. Add some out ends also. B part again. Add some out ends. Make the picking louder and the strumming softer. Now, the real way I do this is I just pick and strum whenever I want. When these notes are on the bass string, I mostly pick and I occasionally just throw in some strumming. I don't think about a pattern. Let's apply this same thing back to the melody string because we might as well. Let's put these numbers back on the melody string. When I'm on the melody string, I do the opposite. I predominantly strum everything and occasionally will pick the melody string by itself. So one way we could practice this is let's pick the first number of every measure and strum all the rest. It'll sound like this. Pick, strum, strum, and don't forget those out ends. It's important. All right, let's try it out here. We're on the melody string. Pick the first note of every measure, strum the rest. Make sure you had out ends. 1, 2, ready, play. B part. Think of how you'd say a sentence, how you would accent certain words. When I told you to be back by midnight, I expected to see you before midnight. I don't know what you were thinking. But from now on, the way we do that with words, that's the way I do this. I'm mostly strumming, and every once in a while I pick something. And I just go, I practice this. It starts as a deliberate practice, and then it becomes automatic. So I wanted to show you this because one of the coolest things about flat picking is the sound. And often when you think of flat picking, you're taking a regular melody like what we've got here. You're moving it an octave lower. You're taking what's on the melody string, you're putting it on the bass, and you're hitting individual strings. But without those strums, it's a little lonely. So you can get the sound of neat playing. It's pretty cool. All you got to do is move the melody over the bass and then start doing that pick strum technique. But what do we not have? We're still moving the hand left and right, which means the fancier versions of this fiddle tune will be harder. You will continually run out of fingers. There's two things you can do in that situation. When you're playing fancy versions of a standard tune, you can either play noter style, which I do a lot. I just use my fingers as if they're noters. Or I split that tune up into 3 chunks, some on the bass, some on the middle, some on the melody, and everything's down here around 1, 2, and 3. So that pick strum technique you just learned, we're still going to use that. But now we're going to come down here. So think of your flat pick decoder. I'm going to draw on the string, the screen here a little bit. If you ever run a festival, don't ask your teachers if they would like a whiteboard in their classroom. Just put one in there. So that's just a little tip for you festival directors. Also plan on losing $2,000 of your own money. But that might be worth it for you. I mean, you get to be king for a weekend. That's not bad. $2,000. I mean, that'd get you a cruise ticket, I guess. And maybe a virus. Okay. So now, let's chop this thing up. Let's look for things that are going to stay on the bass string. So what's on this page? We've already moved it over to the bass. What's going to stay on the bass? Well, O's, 1s, 2s, and 3s stay on the bass. Are there any 3s? No. Well, that's nice. So O and 1 and 2 will stay on the bass string. Let me see if I can do this. There we go. And then down here, look at this. That's all on the bass string. This 2 is on the bass. This 2 is on the bass. Actually, this whole last little part here stays on the bass. So I want to remind you, we took what was on the melody string, we move it all over to the bass, and then we break it up into segments. Anything that's O, 1, and 2 is going to stay on the bass string. What's the next thing? Anything that's a 4, a 5, or a 6.5 is going to be moved over to the middle at what's really an O, 1, 2. Do we have any 6.5s? No. So this is nice. Anything that's a 4, 5 gets moved over to the middle string. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and use blue for the middle here. Anything that's a 4 or 5 gets moved over to the middle. I know this is a little hard on the brain, but you've been with me for 4 weeks. I think I'm getting better at teaching this. This might change your life. Here's a 4, all right? And then over here we got some of these. This is hard. It's an abstract thing to do. Anything that is 012 stays on the bass string. Anything that's a 4 or a 5 gets moved over to the middle at what's actually 0 and 1. Anything that's left is going to go to the melody string. I'm waiting to see if anybody's got a question here. Well, Nancy did say, did you take your chord sheets off your site? I did. I'm trying to simplify the site, at least temporarily, and that's right. She also asked, when I start on the middle string, I want to play the 6.5 instead of the 7 on the middle or the melody. I think I know what you mean there. We'll talk about that later. This is probably going to make this worse. Let's see how bad this makes this. I'm going to take green here. And so this 4-5 becomes an 0-1. Right? This 4-5 becomes an 0-1. I just want you to think about all this a little bit. This 4 becomes an O on the middle. O on the middle. This 4 becomes an O on the middle. Look at the B part. How easy is that? So let me show you something. One moment, please. Your call is being taken in the order it was received. Due to COVID-19 and a totally insane planet Earth, you may experience significantly longer wait times. You know what's funny is then you get somebody right away. I love that. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I want you to see what we're going to turn that into. Let's see. All right, almost there. Here we go. So, watch what happens. And hopefully you got your tabs sitting out in front of you there. I'm going to go ahead and get us in the key of D. I'm going to go ahead and create my repeats. This is neat if you've never used Table Edit. First of all, there's nothing faster than Table Edit. I'm going to do measures 1 through 4 2 times, and I'm going to do measures 5 through 8 2 times. And when you hit OK, it puts the repeats in for you. And I'm going to go ahead and delete the measures. I love this program because I can enter tab in under a minute. Is this working out? How many measures I got? 24 measures. Measures 9 to 24. Delete. There we go. All right. So, looking at your sheet, what's our first measure? 4, 5, 7, 7. That 4 and 5 becomes an O. And then a 1. Anything that was a 7 becomes an open melody string. What's the next measure? 9, 8, 7, 7. That gets turned into 2, 1, O, O. Next measure is 4, 5, 7, 7. The 4, 5 becomes an O, 1 on the middle. You can refer to your flat pick decoder to figure this out. And then anything that's 2, 1, O on the bass stays on the bass. Now remember, that version I gave you is all written on the melody string, but we moved everything to the bass. So don't forget that. B part, 4, 4, 2, 2. Where's that go? Well, that 4 becomes an O on the middle. Uh-oh. And then the 2 stays on the bass, and the 1 and the O. The 4 is on the middle. This is Gray Cat on a Tennessee farm, flat picked across the strings. I'll go ahead and title it. This, I'm going to just say flat picked. Some people hyphenate that. I don't know what to do. Table edit, you can save that. I'm going to go ahead and save it. And print preview, I'm going to go ahead and print it to a PDF. If you've ever wondered how all this works, this is how it works. I'm putting it on my desktop. And then here's one last step I want you to see. What am I doing now? I got that crazy feedback going on. I'm going to take that Gray Cat flat picked and I'm going to export it as a PDF so that I can bring it into here. No, I'm going to export it as a JPEG. That's right. I hope this changes your life. You guys are a lot of trouble. All right. So now, watch this. This thing right here, we're now going to swap it out for this new one we got, which is Gray Cat flat pick. I'm going to get rid of the graphics there. So here's Gray Cat on a Tennessee farm flat picked. Let's go ahead and play this sucker. I'll make that a little bigger. One, two, ready, go. Add some out ends. First line again. Keep going. I'm going to stop. I want you to keep going. Oh, 1, oh, oh, 2, 1, oh. Here comes the second line. Oh, oh, 2, 2, 1, 1. Add those out ends in there. Do that B part again. O2, O2. All right, that looks cool. Now, that's funny. Irene, you've got a blue Steve there. That's wild. Let me see what this is. Look at that. That looks like surveillance video. That's freaking me out, Irene. Let's see.
I don't know, I just raised my hand.
Okay, how are you doing? How can I help?
God, that's not me. There's somebody else in there.
Is that not you?
No, that's not my picture.
That's my picture.
Right?
I think it's kind of cool. Do you have a question about anything?
I did. I was going to ask if you could export that for us.
Yes. Let's do that real quick. I think, let me make sure. Yeah, I'm going to drop this in the file. And I hope I remember to send this with your video link later. But let's see. Desktop, Gray Cat, flat pick. There you go. All right, so you should be able to download that now in the chat window.
How can you do that in the chat window?
Make sure you got your chat window open. Sharon, do you have a question? Sharon. Make sure you unmute there.
When we're doing this decoding, which is amazing, if you have to, don't just be careful which octave you're in, because as a singer, I hate it when the octave flips when inappropriately.
Yeah, but this is I don't know what you mean by be careful, but in this instance it worked. Do you mean like if you move something and you run out of notes or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it goes into another octave instead of where it's supposed to be. Does that happen very often, or is it something we should watch for?
Let me show you what flute players do. Now, this is a good question. All right. Wait, what am I doing? Hang on a second. All right. Here we go. So this is a penny whistle or a tin whistle. And watch this. On a flute, watch what happens here. There's 2 octaves here, the lower and the upper. Here's this tune we're working on. So some of the notes are in the lower octave, some are in the upper octave. If I want to move it all down, here's what they do in Ireland. They just do everything in the lower octave, even though it breaks it. Something like that. Now, that's really a weird thing to talk about, but when you run out of notes, you just play the original ones. And if you're playing expressively with fire, then it works out.
Okay, because as a singer, that really bothers me when it flips for no reason.
Well, when I sing and I jump into a different, you can just jump back and forth. That's all. Remember, people listen with their eyes, not their ears. And what are they looking at? They're looking at the way you feel. And how can you not feel phony? You have to feel real. How can you do that? Have fun and ignore the audience a little bit. I think the best way to honor the audience is to ignore them a little bit. So when I have to do something weird, you're welcome, like playing a different octave or whatever. That's the kind of stuff I think about. Now go back to this page, you guys. So last thing on this, then we'll take a long break. The pick strum stuff makes a big difference here. The out ends actually make a big difference, but if you don't do any out ends, it's really boring. Listen to the out ends. If you swing it, it can even be more interesting. But what's going to make it even better is to occasionally throw in a full strum. It's cool to hear the combination of pick and strum while you do this. So, watch my left hand for a second. And I guess I want to bring up the previous version of Gray Cat. Where are you, Gray Cat? There we go. Okay. So, we take what's on one string. This is how you create that flat pick version. You take what's on one string, the melody, you move it all to the bass, and you learn how to play it over there, including pick strum. Because that sounds great, actually. In some ways, it's better than this other one. Why do you move it down here across 3 strings? Well, as intermediates, you don't get to enjoy the fruits of this yet, but it's to play advanced versions. Listen to this. Playing advanced versions of Gray Cat on a Tennessee Farm, you won't run out of fingers down here, and you'll actually be able to play fast and fancy and clean. But you guys should be taking tunes that are normally on the melody, move them over to the bass, and then use that flat pick decoder to chop it up. So there's one thing Nancy talked about, Nancy Garrett mentioned. I don't know if we're allowed to use last names on here. At least I'm not giving out y'all's addresses. Media files. I want to bring in the flat pick decoder. And I want to spin that puppy around a little bit. There we go. So, what in the world is that 7 doing on the middle there? Well, here's the thing. Anything that is a 7 on the bass, I move it to one of 2 places. Either the open melody or the 3 on the middle. So the 7 on the bass can also be a 3 on the middle or an open melody. How do I know which one to use? Well, I probably use the 7 on the melody string 50% of the time. Maybe a little more. And the 7, what's the advantage of the 7 on the middle? You can slide into it. Can't slide into an open melody. Or, but I think you need to understand that both can work. But I wouldn't do the 3 on the middle at first. Go ahead and do that open melody. I think it's a little more useful. So before our break, just a moment for some questions. Nancy said, why JPG? Because this program I use to do all this magical stuff, it doesn't let me zoom in on a PDF. It only lets me zoom in on a JPEG, so that's a drag. Next question. It's all in the lower octave either way. The little dulcie is the upper octave. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I think you're probably right. I just don't know what you mean. But I trust you. Isn't that great? We're at that point as teacher and student. Anybody else got a question? And Dave, if you want to clarify, you're welcome to. I just want you guys to know how to take a tune and do this to it. And you got this video, so what's your homework going to be? Well, let's just say Bow Them Cabbage doesn't use anything higher than a 3, so it stays on the bass. Soldier's Joy goes 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 7, 7. Here, this is one last good thing we could do. And then Dave says, question was whether voice moving to the middle string changes the octave. It doesn't. That's right. When you go from 4, 5, 6 and a half to 0, 1, 2, it doesn't. Last thing. Oh, I keep saying that. I'm going to play some fancy tunes, and I want you to don't look at my hand so much. Look at the decoder and follow your eyes on the decoder. Let's practice. Look at the 4. Now look at the 2. Look at the O. Look at the 7. Look at the 9. Now, as I play a fancy tune, I want you to do that. Let your eyes fall on the numbers I'm saying. And it'll show you how I'm moving across the strings here. Hang on a second. Yeah, there we go. All right, that's close enough. Here's Whiskey Before Breakfast. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to call out the melody string numbers you guys are used to. So I'm going to call out the melody string version, even though I'm flat picking it. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. 3, 5, 3, 2. 4, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 7, 5, 4, 2, 1, 0. I'm calling out your melody string version, and I want you to see how that translates into these three zones. Here's Wildwood Flower. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 0, 7, 5, 4, 2, 1, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 2. So that ought to get the point across, I think, there. Ooh. Here we go. This thing here I bought 2 days ago because I wanted to show you this. This scale that we have is like this thing here. You have a scale, it runs left to right. But when we flat pick it, we take 3 segments of that thing that is on one string, and we kind of, this is not a perfect metaphor, but we kind of turn that scale into a 3-string scale. All right, that's all. Listen, that was long. I think we went about 10. So I will see you in 17 minutes. Go walk. Take a nap. I'll see you in 17 minutes. Thanks. All right, we're looking at Peekaboo Waltz. Oh boy, it's a good one. So we're starting here at the beginning. I'll count you in. 1 and 2 and 3 and ready, go. One more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and ready, go. All right, let's look at measures 4 and 5 here. Notice those 2 chords, stacked numbers. There's a 3-3-5 and an 0-0-4. Listen to what I do here. Hear that? How I made it short and then I made it silent? I make that 3-3-5 staccato, short. And there's 2 ways I do it. I think I'm doing them both at the same time. One thing, when I do that brush on the 3-3-5, right after the brush, watch what I do with my right hand. I just let the heel of my hand touch the strings. But another thing I do with my left hand is I lift up, but I don't come off. And that also creates silence. Really, you only need one of those. I'm doing both for some reason. So listen to measure 4. And then the 0-0-4 rings out. Let's try this on measure 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Let's do that again. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay. And then you're going to start to see some repeated elements going on here. Everything we just did here, you'll end up doing again. So look at the end of measure 5, those 2 pickup notes. Let's start with those. That's the 2, 3 that's at the end of measure 5, and then we'll go into the next line. I'll count 1 and 2 and then we'll jump in. Measure 5, last 2 notes. 1 and 2 and. Let's look at that whole section there. In measures 8 and 9, notice there's nothing written on the bass, and I'm also not plucking it because I want it to sound like an A chord. And when we did the minimal chord melody, one of these previous weeks, I don't know if I told you about this one or not, but mostly when I'm finger picking and I want the sound of an A chord, I use an open middle string to give me that A drone. I don't touch the bass string with either hand. So listen to that second line. It's a little simpler. It's not a heavy sound, it's a light sound. And there's something else I do in measure 8. I really don't want to hear the bass string in measure 8. So look at this. My right hand middle finger just lightly touches the bass string so that it can't vibrate. And I do that right at the beginning of measure 8. Simply by making sure the bass string isn't ringing at the beginning of measure 8, you get an A sound. Let's start with measure 7. Measure 7. 1 and 2 and 3 and... And I try to be careful not to hit the open middle string with the thumb of the right hand because I don't want to dampen it. Measure 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and... So I probably won't use my thumb to pluck the string there. I'm probably going to use my index finger. There we go. That sounds better. Let's start at the end of measure 5. End of measure 5. It's the end of the first line there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, go. Keep going. And then this next part is much like the first line. So you've already done some of that. Let's start with the last 2 notes of measure 9. The last 2 notes of measure 9. Ready, go. There's that same short 3-3-5 again. Staccato. End of measure 13 has a 6.5. That's not in the key of D. This is called decorative chromaticism. You're using a note outside of the key just to spice things up a little bit. People who have chromatic dulcimers they can do this more. It's one of the advantages to having one. Measure 13, I want you to start with the last 2 notes. And this is the hardest part of the whole song, I think, right here. Let me make it big. I can tell I have a fever, I think. If I pass out, call 911. Now, listen to that. So, measure 13, we're going to start with the last 2 notes. You might want to watch it a couple times. 1 and 2 and... Look at that. I'm going to do that again. Measure 13. 1 and 2 and... 1 and 2 and... 1 and 2 and... There we go. If you got a question, make sure you ask me about it. I think that's the trickiest part. And I play from memory a lot, but on that one I often end up, if I don't look, I end up just making up something crazy. Look at measure 15. This is a continuation of this challenging thing. Here we go. Let's do measure 15, and then we'll end on the first beat of 16. 1 and 2 and 3 and... 2 again. 1, ready, go. 1 and 2 and do it again. So if we do all of that together, it's kind of a shame it's on 2 different lines. So measure 13, let's start with the last 2 notes in measure 13, and we'll just keep playing. Measure 13, 1 and 2, 3, hang on, I'm miscounting. 1 and 2. Let's do that again. I'll just say ready, go. Ready, go. Let's do that again. Measure 13. Ready, go. One more time. Ready, go. Okay. Now the next part is the peekaboo part. Let's break for 6 minutes and then we'll pick it up. 6-minute break. Don't let me forget to hit record when we get back. I actually recorded everything except just the beginning of the peekaboo waltz. I think we'll be all right. Okay. So now we're ready for the peekaboo. Look at measure 17. We're going to start with the last 2 notes of 17. 1 and 2 and. Stop. We'll do that much. Now what's tricky about this is in measures 18 and 19, you got to go 4, 9, 4. And then in measures 20 and 21, you got to go 5, 10, 5. Now, there's actually an easier way to deal with this. That 4, 9, 4, I could go like this, where it's that close. But I kind of like, I remember when I wrote this, I liked going back and forth. It reminded me of Chutes and Ladders. And I want you to hear what I'm doing here. Listen how I slide up from the 4. You can hear the slide. And then when I play the 9, I make it staccato or short. How do I make it short? I lift up the index finger and I don't come off. So listen to 4, 9. And sometimes I make it short with the thumb on my right hand. Watch what I do with the thumb on my right hand. Right after I pluck it, I touch it. Measure 17, the last 2 notes. I'll just say ready, go. Ready, go. I do a similar kind of thing here. Let's do measure 21 only. 21 only. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Let's do that again. Measure 21. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now let's do measures 21 and 22. 1 and 2 and 3 and. And remember, you get a video for this, so you can work on it and hit the pause button over and over. Let's do measure 20. Let's just do everything on the screen here. Measure 20. 1 and 2 and 3 and 5, 6, 10, 5, 5, 4, 6, 6 and a half. Oh, 8, 6 and a half. 5, 6 and a half. 6, 5, 4. Oh. Let's do that again. Measure 20. 1 and 2 and 3. Why am I doing that short note? You know, when I go 4, 9. Well, one benefit of that short note is it lets me get back down to the 4. Because I'm just cutting off the end of it. But another thing is it just sounds cool. So it works both ways there. All right, let's play. Is it not letting me zoom? It's not letting me go to the last line. Let me see if I can fix that. It's not behaving. I don't know why. I know what I'll do. Peekaboo, page 2. All right. There we go. Last 2 lines here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Bass. 2, 3, 4. 9, 4. Measure 28. 5, 6, 10, 5, 6. All right, let's look at measure 30. Measure 30. Watch my hand for a second. Watch that again. I keep messing it up. You could do that if you're a thumb player like this. And then the last 2 measures, measure 32, 7, 0, 5, 4, 5, 0. And I keep that 5 on the middle string. I keep that 5 on the middle string. Because I just like to hear it ringing that way. And then everything else is open. Let's do the last line, the last 4 measures. 1 and 2 and 3 and... I just slow down a little bit there. I'm going to play the whole thing, and I want you guys to know, remember I taught this yesterday, so you're going to have that video too. And there might be some things you can pick up in that one that I didn't cover today. So let me just bring that over here. I'll play the whole thing. All right. 1 and 2 and 3, ready, go. Second line. Into measure 18. Next page. Measure 26. It's a pretty little tune. Pretty little tune. All right, so let me see. I got some questions over here. Let's see. Yeah, this Peekaboo Waltz is in multiple places. Join the Jam 2 has no MP3s. And most of the tunes in that book are in the original fiddle keys, and you can listen online and get them. But I might have put this in Fingerpickin' 2, actually. I think that's what it came out of. So look for the MP3s in Fingerpickin' 2. I could be totally wrong about that, but I think I did put it in there. Cecil says, do you use your thumb at all? Left. Yeah, in this song I use it. Let me show you. In measure 29, I tend to use it there sometimes, but other times I don't. We've talked about this before, but I'm playing in a non-thumb style most of the time, and every once in a while, hold on, you're moving too fast. What is that song? To make the moment last. I use it sometimes, but the main thing, I think I leave the thumb out because I think it makes me a cleaner player by a very small amount. It's not like night and day or anything. But the big thing is people who don't use their thumb arrange differently. These big 3-finger chords, look at this. Those 3-finger chords, there's a lot of arrangements like that. People that play without their thumb don't use those 3-finger chords that densely. They use more of the ones that are similar to that minimal chord melody thing we covered in one of these previous weeks, where there's always one string open. So I'll save stuff like this, the 3-finger chords, in little bursts, but I don't rely on them. I like the open strings. I like the sound of that. Feeling groovy, that's right. Is that Paul Simon? Paul Simon makes that sound cool. When I play it, it sounds like Romper Room. Something like that. I don't know. I like it, though. It's a cool tune. Lovin' Spoonful. It might be. I don't know. Any other questions about this one? You guys look pretty quiet. There's one more tune in here to do, and I don't think I want to do it. I did it yesterday, so you can find it on there. It's Red Wing. But I think I want to do a different tune. I reserve that right as a teacher. Let's see. I got them ready to go. I'm just trying to pick the one I want to do. That song's too sad. Let me look up the lyrics to this. I need to know what this is about. Hang on just a second. I don't want to end on sad lyrics. No, they don't even have them in there. All right, let's try again. Here it is. Okay, good. It's not sad. There we go. It's not sad. It's this tune called Little Rosewood Casket, and it sounds like Little Coffin, but that's not what it's about. There's a little, it's still sad, but it's only love, Can't we all laugh at love a little bit? There's a little rosewood casket lying on a marble stand and a packet of old love letters written by my true love's hand. So, it's just about love letters and a thing. I don't know. You know how many of these songs are just sad? So look up, I think I sent it to you. Can somebody confirm that I sent that to you? Okay, I'm getting a bunch of yeses. Okay, it's in that email I sent you.
I didn't get the email.
Then we have a problem because I sent it to that same email address.
Try the Gmail then, please.
All right.
Glore3844 at Gmail.
Let's see. All right, let me try.
I've got everything else.
All right, let me forward it again. K, glore3844 at gmail.com. All right, here it comes. Let me know if there's a problem there. No, wait a minute. It's not in there. Are you guys serious? Is it in there? Who's got it? You guys have Rosewood Casket? Where is it?
Yes, we got it in the packet you sent yesterday.
Yes, I have it.
Oh, okay.
Could you send
It's
it
on,
out again? I don't think I have that.
it's on the back of one of the pages.
I see. I see. No. There it is. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to send it again. We'll try, see what happens. I'll send it to both email addresses. Does anybody else need that? Just by the way. What's your email?
INMcareers@gmail.com.
All right. I think I've been sending it to the Mendelssohns one. I don't know. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Yes, I need one.
What's your email?
mmed@cobridge.tv.
Spell the first three letters.
MMED.
MMED. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. I need one.
All right, what's your email? The first three letters.
TBCA.
Got it. Thank you. Anybody else?
I think I need one. I thought I remember seeing it, but I'm not finding it.
What's the first three letters?
Robertson, ROBERTC, ROBERTS.
Robertson Karen 54.
Yep.
All right. You guys listen. The funny thing about teaching, this has been a big class. There's been over 100 people in it. And I want you to laugh when I say this. There's so many people that say, I didn't get the email. And then they write me back and go, oh, I'm sorry, I found it. Just that many things. It's been crazy. But I'm getting better at dealing with it,
I got the other ones, but that one I missed, evidently.
All right. All right, let's jump to the tune now.
Yeah, I've got the email, Steve, but I don't have those songs.
You make me want to cry.
Sorry.
That could be the beginning of a song.
I know. He ran off. Some of us didn't have the handouts, and he just ran off, screaming. Okay, I sent them both to you. It shows that the attachments are there. Let's let the fog of war settle, and I'll make sure you have it with the videos. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now you're all ready for your break? Now let's just push through a little bit here. There we go. All right. This is a simple tune, but I want to just want to talk about a few things with it. Let's play this sucker. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and ready, go. stop right there. So here's a few things to pay attention to. In measure 3, that 1 on the bass, we're going to keep that there the whole time. In measure 3, the 1 on the bass is going to stay there that whole measure. You don't have to, but that's what I'm doing there. Same thing in measure 7. Now, check this out. Let's see, Gene, I got your mic on there. Patrice, you have a question?
I got it answered, thanks.
All right, good. So in measure 2, watch this. All those 8th note pairs, that's what out ends look like. And I don't like to obey that. I don't want to play that the same every time I get to it. So what's the main idea in measure 2? It's that there's a 4 happening. If your hand's already moving, just hit every out, sometimes do an out in or a group of out ends. Every time you get to measure 2, don't strum it the same way. I'm also swinging. So instead of even 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I'm doing a swing rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3. Watch my right hand. Look how it tends to be biased towards being in the out position. It's out there longer than the in. But I want you guys to add extra strums where they're not written, and I want you to ignore them where they are written. Just keep that right hand moving. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Let's do that again. And look at measure 5. There's a half note there, but you're welcome to hit the strings more. Top of the page, measure 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and ready, go. Keep that 1 down. Second line. Keep the 1 down. Good, we'll stop there. Let's look at the next 2 lines here. Let's start right with measure 9. 1, 2, ready, go. 2, 2, 3, 4, 7. Here's a 3, 3, 5. And then we'll stop right here. Let's look at measure 11. That's a 3, 3, 5. You could finger that. Thumb players could finger it like this with a middle ring thumb. But I finger it like that, which we've talked about before, I believe. But what if you don't want to do that? I want you guys to remember back what we talked about when we talked about minimal chord melody. Minimal chord melody. I had you do safe notes, and I want to remind you of this. This is a little bit of a review, but I got something neat to show you. So let's go ahead and make a shift to this thing here. So I told you when there's a D chord happening, you had safe notes at 0, 2, 4, and 7. And I had you guys make up melodies with the 0, 2, 4, 7. Watch my index finger. I didn't tell you to only use 0, 2, 4, and 7. I just told you you're going to primarily use 0, 2, 4, and 7, but you are going to include neighboring notes. Watch as I make up stuff using these red dots. Watch my finger. Notice how often I'm beginning and ending my ideas on those red dots. Then I told you we were going to put chords with that stuff. And whenever there's a D chord going on, the minimal option is just to keep the bass and middle open. Okay, so there's that. Then we talked about an A major chord. The safe notes for the A major chord are 1, 3, 4, and 6.5. So I'm going to do that same thing again, but now with new safe notes. my ideas tend to begin and end on the red dots. And then when we put chords with it, I think you'll remember this. I told you when an A chord is happening and your melody's on the melody string, whatever's on the bass, whatever's on the melody string, you're also going to do on the bass, and those fingers will move together as a unit. So now watch what I'm doing. And then when I go back to D, I release that bass. So I want to sum up those two. When I'm doing a D, when I'm making up stuff for a D chord, I use 0, 2, 4, 7 as the safe notes, and the bass and middle string are open. And then when I go to an A chord, now my safe notes are 1, 3, 4, 6.5, and whatever's on the melody also gets played on the bass. When I go back to D, I release the bass. A chord. D, release the bass. Now, the more time you spend making up stuff, the way I'm doing right here, you'll be able to use that stuff in songs like Rosewood Casket to get more interesting. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But we've got one more chord we've got to cover. What about the G chord? So for the G chord, the safe notes are O, open, 3, 5, 7. So I had you guys making up stuff 0, 3, 5, 7. Now the ideas begin and end on these red dots. Now this is the trickier one when you want to put the chording with it. What do we do on the other two strings? I'm going to make this one a different color. So here's what we do. I had you anchoring, the bass string was left open. On the middle string, I had you anchor at 1, 3, or 6. So the melody string is quite busy. But the middle string, you're just anchoring. So watch my hand if you need a review of this. I'm going to keep a 1 on the middle string while I play a melody on the melody string. Or I can keep a 3 on the middle while I do a bunch of that. That whole time I was holding that 3 on the middle. Or I can have a 6 on the middle the whole time. So if I'm anchoring here, I'm mostly using these 2 red dots. If I'm anchoring at 3, I'm using these 2 red dots. If I'm anchoring at 6, I'm using these 2. So now watch me make up stuff for a G chord. It's a 3, 6, 1, 6. So that's that minimal chord melody system. The big one is the G, where you got to anchor at one of these 3 places on the middle. The A chord, whatever was on the melody, you put on the bass. The D chord, the bass, and the middle are open. So why am I showing you all this stuff? Well, look here at the tune at measure 11. Measure 11. That 3, 3, 5. What if you want to simplify that? What chord is in measure 11? It's a G. Ah, okay. Well, instead of a 3, 3, 5, where's your melody? It's on the melody string at 5. you could use one of these green dots like I was just describing instead of the 3-3-5. Why do that? Well, sometimes holding down 3 strings is great, but other times it ties your fingers up and it's harder to play fancier or cleaner if you choose to. So sometimes I go to this minimal chord option. So I have greater flexibility with my fingers. I tend to be able to be a cleaner player. And I also love the idea of having an open note ringing. It doesn't say this in the Bible, but I always think it sounds biblical. An open string covers many sins. But I think it's true. That open ringing bass string covers weird little noises you might make in there. Gene Salisbury, are you on an exotic island? It looks like your house or wherever you're at. It looks like you're in a tree house in Guatemala. Anyway, it looks awesome. I want to live there.
I'm in Mexico.
Where?
I'm living in a Hogan.
Oh, what part of Mexico?
Mexico outside of Pecos, New Mexico.
Pecos.
Outside of Santa Fe.
Oh, okay, New Mexico. I've been there. It looks like New Mexico a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
You know those big sopapillas you guys fill with honey?
Yes.
You know those only hold so much honey. I found that out. Anyway, I needed a little break. Thank you. That place looks awesome. So back to the tune. You're welcome. Thanks. So back to the tune. I just want you to understand when you guys look at tab, like measure 11, that minimal chord melody system we used where you were making up melodies can be applied to pre-existing melodies. Let's look at another example of that. Look down at measure 14 and 15. Now you can just keep a 1 on the bass the whole time. That's definitely an option. But what if we move the bass with that melody? It's going to do this. 1, and then I hit a quick 2 on the middle by itself. Let's do that. Measures 14 and 15, you're going to hold down a 101, and then do a 202, 303, and then silence the strings. Hit a 2 on the middle, and then do the last 2 measures. Let's do that. Measure 14. 1, 2, ready, go. Silence. Everything you see me do is either to survive or to have fun. So I'll actually switch to these different methods just for variety. There's one more thing we got to do with this tune. I want you to do something cool to some part of it. So let me look through here and see what would be a good place to do that. Let's see. Let's try it right here. So in measures 4, 5, and 6, what chord is active? A D major chord. What if we abandon the melody in measures 4, 5, and 6 and just make up something cool using the safe notes of a D major chord? So that means you'll have safe notes. Can't use green there. There we go. 0, 2, 4, 7. So watch me do this. Here's your example. I'm going to start the tune. Then I'm going to make up stuff. And then I'm going to jump back into the melody, maybe. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to make stuff up on measure 4. and measure 5. But I'm actually going to use the pickup notes at the end of measure 5, that O and 2 there. So let me do it a few times from the beginning. Just listen unless you want to play. Here comes measure 3. Now in measure 4, I'm going to start making up stuff. In measure 5, I'm going to use the last 2 notes there. And then I'm back into the melody. Now, this is a perfect place to do something cool like that because measure 4 and 5, you're just not doing anything. It just sits on that 2 for the most part. Listen to it again from the beginning. Now, that's not a lot of time to make up something. So you really only have to do 1 or 2 little things. Actually, the less you do, the better. You know, we all needed a break, but since class is almost over, maybe you should just stand up. I don't know. I'm going to give you a 2-minute break. No, I'll give you 3 minutes. Just stand and wiggle, and I'll give you a good last. No, wait a minute. Yeah, 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes now. Go wiggle. I'll see you in 2 minutes. I'm now recording. I checked my temperature and it's 98.6. So, you know how that goes. I bet you I had it though about an hour ago, and now I'm over it. I've had it over 7 times in the last 2 months. Symptom free, of course. All right. So let's get back to this because this is a culmination of the stuff we've done so far. Let me get my pick out. A lot of people, they hear me play something. Well, I've lost all picks. Yeah. People will hear me play. And they'll say, well, how do you add that cool stuff in there? And this is an intermediate class, so we're just doing this little bit of it. I take a song. I mean, I've showed you guys how to make up melodies the whole time. You know, you just make up stuff. But usually, I don't use it like that. I'm going to play mostly Rosewood Casket. But every once in a while, when the melody becomes a little bit still, it's just not very busy, I will look at the current chord, and I will think of the safe notes, and I'll just make up just the littlest of things. So what's the littlest of things mean? Well, here's for the D. Watch this one. That's right there. So watch how I use that. Do it again in the measure 8. Just that little stuff. You know, sometimes it sounds like it must be genius stuff. It really isn't. I often think of peanut butter cookies. You know how you take a fork and you put that little crisscross in the top of a peanut butter cookie? As a child, I remember thinking, how do they do that? What is that? You know, and I remember my mom going, that's all it is. I remember going, really? You know, I thought, but that's the way these little things are. So let's play this tune. When we get to measure 4, do something neat. Use an O, 2, 4, and 7. Feel free to wander between them. But in measure 5, we're going to rejoin with the O, 2, 4, like that. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, ready, top. Measure 2 here. Here comes measure 3. Now make up stuff. O, 2, 4, 7. And then here's your O, 2, 4. O, 2, 4. Here's measure 7. On measure 8, make up something. And then we'll stop. Let Let me bring the music up a little. Uh-oh. Yeah, last two lines. Let's do a similar thing here on the third line. When I get to measure 12, I'll make something up again. So let's start with measure 9. You're just going to do the last two notes in measure 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, ready, go. Make up something. Now here's your 0, 2, 1. 0, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2 on the middle, and then I'll make up something. Sometimes people say, where are you getting these endings from? Well, look at the last two measures. It's a D, 0, 2, 4, 7. Just do something there. This is, I had somebody write me something. I want you to hear it. Where is it? One moment, please. Let's see. There it is. Yeah, here we go. So somebody wrote me, your approach is transformative. I started learning to play a bit less than 18 months ago. I've learned a lot of good stuff, but the takeaway kind of was that if I could play through some tab 3 times without making a mistake, and then if I could speed up, I had some hope of being a good player. And there's certainly, that's part of our process. I've enjoyed that much, okay? But then person says, and that is, punishing. It's like going to the gym, but worse because when you can't succeed, it breaks your heart too, instead of just leaving you bitter and twisted. I don't know. But I mean, I think what person is saying is she thought, oh, there's her gender. If she just plays the tune 3 times a little faster, that's success. Now, that is success on one level. And then she writes, but playing something a bit differently every single time I play it, well, heck, I appear to be a natural. No one said it has to be totally intentional, right? So thank you. I knew the dulcimer was beautiful and entrancing. And so why am I reading that to you? This isn't everybody's bag, but you should know about me, what my passion is. I'm going to help you read the paper, but I'm usually going to give you a simpler version, unlike Peekaboo. I'm going to give you a simpler version of the tune and show you how to do the fun stuff with it. When I work repeatedly over a period of weeks, like in a private lesson, it's easier for me to train somebody how to do that neat stuff, like what we just added on the end here. It's easier for me to train them to do that than to constantly give them tablatures where all that stuff is written, because it's hard to read, it's hard to memorize. It's easier for me as a teacher to give you a real simple tab and then just start showing you how to doctor it up. And then what's going to happen is this little thing we did in Rosewood Casket, I hope, you're going to get back to Bile Them Cabbage, and you might try some of that stuff there. So if you think back to what we've covered, I really want you to think about keeping that right hand moving, whether you're hitting the strings or not. It keeps you from having to read or memorize rhythms, and you can generate them fresh every time you play. You'll have more fun. I think it makes you more listenable. I want you to think about the safe notes and the minimal chording. But I want you to do this your way, not my way. So if there's any part of this you don't like, just forget it. If there's something that helps, study it. You're going to have lots of video. You can go over it again. I have to deal with yesterday's video and today's video, and it actually takes the computer a while to render about 5 hours of video. But I will get that stuff to you with a summary of all the videos. I'll try to make sure all the handouts are in that one email, whether you're in yesterday's class or today's class. Let me read what we've got over here. Unrequited love. Is that how you pronounce unrequited? I know, unrequited love. You know what, though? The wise man has the power to reason away what seems to be to nothing at all. I don't remember. You ought to read that song. I forget what the lyrics are. My uncle, he always thought of his high school sweetheart, and then he left his wife to go hang out with her when he was in his older years. And then they both died from alcoholism in the streets. So I don't know. Better love the one you're with, people. Why did we get into this topic? It's because one of you wrote something to me. Let's see. A jewelry. It could be yeah. I'm looking. What gauge strings do you use on your McCafferty? I got to get a micrometer because I tweaked it. If it's what the inside says, and I think it very well might be, 24, 16, 12. 24, 16, 12. But I actually think I used a 24, 15, 11 at one point, and I like that. So I don't know. Let me see what else I got. We're wrapping this up, by the way. Don't run off unless you have to, and then don't feel bad. My daughter, let's see. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I'm getting some thank yous here. Thank you. Yeah, Quarantine Festival. Tonight's the big giveaway for the prizes. If you signed up for that festival, make sure you go. There's $2,600 in prizes being given away. You know, that festival's been great because there's a lot of people that lost all their work for months or maybe a year or more. And that festival, the guys running it aren't taking a dime except for what they're teaching. You know, they're getting paid like the rest of us, but it's crazy. There's over 1,800 orders came in, 317 classes. I mean, you do the math. It's crazy. But that's money that helps some people, so it's pretty cool. Let's see what we got here. You guys are welcome. I think I feel better now. What else do I want to tell you? Please check out mountaindulcimer.com. I am going to be offering stuff coming up real soon. You might even hear about it today. But anyway, it's been good seeing you guys. It made me feel normal. I know other people have written that to me. If you have any questions, let me know. And that is it. I'm going to officially hit end on the class. You are welcome to wander out right now, but I'm going to stick around to see if you have questions. Adios.